For you live at the Results Operations Center here in Pretoria, giving you the latest with regards to South Africa's 6th democratic general election, crisscrossing the country for you. Different parts, different regions, different areas, trying to give you the latest, whether it be with regards to the situations when people are protesting, whether it be peaceful. Let's, of course, detail that out for you. We continue to unpack how the scenario is planning out as well, just downstairs, and we'll cross over to my colleague Diabo Seto as well throughout today as we unpack exactly what's going on. We've gone to places like Kimberley. We've been in the KZN, of course, earlier today. The scenario there was very, very different, as we had at least 17 voting stations remaining closed due to access issues, and that was by 11:30. So things have been resolved out there. We even spoke to Saima Mabola, the CEO there of the IEC, saying that the scenarios in certain places have indeed been resolved. Voting has returned to normal in many areas as well. And even though there's a sort of a, if you want to call it a cleanup operation in some areas, we'll continue to get into that and just how the scenario is planning out as well. We've even been to the likes of Newcastle as well, sharing the scenario there. Let's get to the floor now and see how things are faring out down there. We are at the Results Operations Center, as I keep mentioning, of course, the hub and the heart of where things will begin to flow as those results come in later this evening, if not early in the morning as well. My colleague Diabo Seto is down there as well. Diabo, give us the latest.
Arabile, I cannot overemphasize the role of media and the importance that they play in general elections such as these ones. Telkom has told us that they have in fact sponsored about 15 journalists from community stations across the country to come to the Results Operations Center to be trained, to be given accommodation, so that all this news does just not end with us as a public broadcaster, but also is filtered to the community through community papers, radio stations, and also community TV stations. I have with me Moeketsi Muchumi, who is with Telkom. He's going to tell us about the rationale behind this initiative, which is great indeed. Moeketsi, thank you very much for your time. The rationale behind this is a great initiative to not just have the big media part of the general elections, but also to have your community-based stations and newspapers, which are equally important.
So this really is in line with our purpose, which is to connect South Africans to a better life. So we thought, the elections are a very important part of democracy and part of getting people involved. And we thought, why not bring in the community radio stations, the community newspapers, because they normally don't get this side of exposure. And we certainly thought this was a good idea to bring them to the Nerve Center so that they get the news first, they distribute it to their communities, and it's as fresh as everybody else. They don't need to get information from anybody else. So the intention was really to make sure that they get that sort of exposure.
And how is their autonomy maintained? As a sponsor, there should be sort of a gap, and that says that they still need to remain relevant and have their own independence and not go with whatever Telkom is saying simply because they are their sponsor. How have you balanced that?
So to make sure that they maintain their independence, we asked the Amabongani to have a chat with them about just what to expect at the IEC, that the sort of stage it provides them. So we partnered with Amabongani to make sure that they do the training and just and making them understand what needs to happen and what happens during an election.
And what technological infrastructure have you supplied to the journalists so that it makes filing stories and telling their stories much easier?
So as you probably would know, that we are also the ICT and telephony partner for the IEC itself. So we actually are connecting the whole of the IEC from the provincial centers to the Nerve Center. And specifically at the Nerve Center itself, we have Wi-Fi connectivity available for the journalists to do their filing. So there's space for them to sit and do their work. We give them access to other politicians, to the IEC, to be able to speak to them and get their stories from them.
Thank you. Please do allow me to speak to them for myself to hear how they're enjoying this experience. Hi, Ausi, how are you?
Great, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Could you just introduce yourself and which publication or news agency you are with, and how it makes you feel that you are part of these general elections and the access that you have to everybody?
course, my name is Portia Mbambo, and I'm representing Highway Radio in Durban. We're a Christian radio station there. Basically, this whole experience has been awesome. The journey towards the elections, of course, and now being in this main center and reporting live from here and actually interacting with different parties and getting more skills and experience, of course, and exposure, and as well as to try and grab as much as possible context so that we can do our work much easier. And of course, we do thank Telkom South Africa for sponsoring this particular project.
Thank you so much, Portia. Let me move to your colleague and find out, from it's Mr. Vusinkosi, and find out how it has the journey been, as a community-based media outlet, to feel that you are not given the kind of respect that perhaps you require. You know that during elections, it's only the big media that's normally, looked at. How does that make you feel as a community-based news agency?
Firstly, I'm going to have to thank Telkom for this great platform that they've given us. Community media or community radio stations, for instance, they're at the heart of the community. They speak to the services and the needs of the community, of the different communities, direct. So it feels so good to be part of this initiative, more especially to be able to be giving our listeners and our audiences back at home results as they happen right here at the IEC Center. But it's truly a remarkable and great gesture shown by Telkom.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nkosi. Let me just move to my left and speak to others and find out. Hi, Sisi. I just want to find out, we know that community radio stations, when it comes to finances, to keep them going, it's always a challenge. What do you think that we should be, or the country should be looking into, or policymakers or the municipalities? How can community-based stations be funded better so that they do their job easily and fairly and be able to give news to the people as they should?
Firstly, I would like to thank Telkom for bringing us here. And secondly, us from Ekurhuleni, we are being sponsored by Ekurhuleni municipality. So that's nice, because we also cover the local news from every place in Ekurhuleni. So this initiative is helping us a lot. Like, we're learning how the big medias work, how the other media works actually. So this is a great initiative. Like, we'd like to thank Telkom for it. I'm Refilwe Mabote from Ekurhuleni.
Thank you so much, Refilo. Let me just speak to one last lady from Imbokodo. I think it's Imbokodo FM, 96.8 FM. I think they're from KZN as well. Tell me, Sisi, please do introduce yourself first and tell us what you have learned so far since you've been here during the training. And, today is the day of voting. What have you learned?
Okay, my name is Tracy Ndaba. I've learned a lot today and during the whole training. Like, us as community media, we never really got a chance to be exposed in such things, and we're grateful to Telkom for that. I've learned a lot, to be working hand in hand in the elections and seeing what's going on. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Well, Arabile and our viewers at home, these are the journalists and the newsmakers that are part of the community radio stations and community newspapers who have come here by way of Telkom, who have sponsored their accommodation, their training, to make sure that even our people deep in the rural communities and even in the townships anyway of the community radio stations or the communities themselves, they get the election news on time, and they are here to make sure that everything is going well and everyone across the country is covered when it comes to election. And I'm handing back to you, Arabile.
Diabosito, of course, here still in the heart of the voting center here at the Rock, the Results Operations Center, of course, in Pretoria.